Hello, hello. Let's see if this is working. I am just checking out if everything is working here. Say hi in the chat if you are. First time live, I think I've said that. So I just want to make sure that everything is working. Hi, Miss. Nice to see you. So today's gonna be about job and career, and I hope that you have some questions and maybe can even let me know where you are watching from. We're gonna start in just a minute. Okay, so I need to see that, or there's a lag in 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 what I'm saying to when it's coming on YouTube. So it's gonna take a little bit before I might answer questions and see the chat. So just write and let me know if there are any questions, and I will get to them as I see them in the comments or as it fits into the agenda I have here. So welcome, thank you for being here, Heimas from Amsterdam. It's nice to see you. Elena, hello, welcome for Holstebro. That is two very different places. It's nice to have you here. So today I want to go over different things about job search in Denmark, things that are important, relevant when you're applying for jobs in Denmark, whether you are based outside of Denmark or in Denmark. To give you a little bit of context, I know that some of you already know me, but if you don't, my name is Diana Lund Nordström, and I am a job and career partner for internationals applying for jobs in Denmark. And I've had some questions before going live today. I've been asking people what are some of the things that you think would be nice for me to speak about in today's video, and I wrote those down. So I'm gonna jump into those a little bit and then just answer your questions as we go. And there's no stupid questions. That's very important for me. There is only stupid answers. So the only one who can say something stupid today, and I'm probably going to, is me. If you at some point hear a bark or something, I have my dog lying in the background here, and I know that you should not be doing that when you're doing live things and stuff, but there was not really an alternative right now because he likes being here with me. Well, I'm choosing that to be the case. So never mind. So going into today's topic, one of the things that I wanted it to touch upon is that I wrote I think it was a LinkedIn post about when the companies are asking you at a job interview. And I know this is like jumping a little bit because, well, why are we starting with a job interview? Because we don't have a job interview yet. But I still just wanted it to talk about this because it speaks into the mindset we need to have when we're looking for jobs. So the thing that I wrote about was that if there is a job opening and people are, or the company are like, we would very much love for you to start tomorrow, then my advice to you would be, don't say no to the job. Of course, that's not what I'm saying, but do think about this. If they say, when can you start? Then say at least 2 weeks away from the date that you're interviewing. And if they say, oh, can you start tomorrow? Then be very, very sure that they have a very important reason why you want to do so. The reason being that it's a mental transition that you're going through. When you're going from being unemployed or being in, well, this is usually for people unemployed, because if you have a job already, you can't start tomorrow. So going from being unemployed into a new job, it's a transition. And one thing is that it's going to be a transition either way when you start a new job, because there's so many new things, so many new people, new tasks, stuff like that. But it's also a transition from having a lot of time doing things at home. And one of the things I've seen both from myself but also seen a lot of people do is that when they have a lot of time, they tend to push things, meaning that when they then, for example, I had this guy who, this was the example I used as well in the post, but I had this client at one point, and he was supposed to paint his kitchen and he just kept putting it off because he had time and time and time, because he was just applying for jobs, and you're never just applying for jobs, but bear with me on that. And then all of a sudden he got a job offer, and then he was like, wow, now I really need, now I'm in such a hurry with all of the things that I kept pushing because I didn't have a job, because I had plenty of time. So if you start the next day, then you'll have these things that you probably didn't do, that you then now need to get done, and it's going to stress you out because you don't have the time for it. So make sure that when you start a new job, that you have a little bit of a period to, or a grace period, or a period to both mentally adjust to that new fact, but also to get all of these small practical things done that you probably have not been doing while being job seeking. And also, when we are, especially if you're in the Danish job search system, there tends to be this pressure from the system of how much you need to apply, how much you need to be doing, and being able to breathe and relax and enjoy, whether you're in the system or not, but just the certainty that comes with a signed contract. And now you can actually relax a little bit and not stress about the fact that you don't have a job, you don't have an additional income to the household, or all of these things. Being able to just enjoy that a little bit could be a very, very good place to be in, and a good mental start to the new job, because you're either, if you start tomorrow or in 2 days, you will, well, today's Friday, so if you start on Monday, you of course have 2 days, but the thing is that you will most probably go from a stressful situation to another stressful situation. Stressful is not necessarily bad, but it's a good thing to let your nervous system relax a little bit and let it kind of, yeah, relax, get that break, kind of like when you have a job and you go on your summer holiday or whatever you do, kind of get that into your body to relax. That's really, really helpful. And I'm not saying that your new job is gonna be stressful, but it's a new thing. There's something new happening, so you are gonna be in a stressful situation, because it's new, and that will, hopefully it should change as soon as you get to know people and get to know your new tasks and stuff like that. I'm just gonna rearrange myself a little bit here. So I see a bit, or a few more people have joined. That's amazing. I would love to know in the chat, share where you're watching from, maybe even your nationality as well. If you feel like doing that, that would be great. And then the next thing that I think would be very beneficial, and then that I had some people ask about, was networking. And one of the things that are extremely important in Denmark is networking. And when you are looking for a job, so basically, and I know that I'm not gonna regret saying this, but I know that it can be hard um, to comprehend a little bit that networking is not something you do as a short-term strategy. It's not that you go out for a coffee meeting and then you have a job. Networking is a long-term strategy, but it's also one that's going to help you in your next job and your next job and your next job. So putting that effort and that energy into networking is really, really important. In Denmark, it's said that at least 50% of all jobs are never posted, meaning that they are usually given through network. And you are, um, even if you do apply for a posted position, networking is still really important because it can help you get even further. So if you know someone in a company that you're applying with, then that person can let the recruiter or the manager know that you are going to be applying for that job, meaning that they will then be more likely to look for your application in all of the applications they get in, meaning that there's more chance that you would actually get the interview because someone already vouched for you. And we like recommendations as people. It's the same thing. If you don't know where to eat, you'll ask people for a recommendation and you're more likely to go to that place that's been recommended, right? So when we recommend people or we have someone recommend us, we're more likely to get more views or more time on our application material. And again, doing that is also helping you be more likely to get the interview and get the job in the other end. Because again, when you then get the interview, you will then also be in front on points in terms of the other applicants because someone already vouched for you. So meaning that if everyone starts at 0, then you will get 10 points before even entering the interview because you already got a recommendation from someone. I hope this makes sense. Hey, sorry, I'm sorry. Shurka. I hope that's the right pronunciation. I should know this by now. I'm sorry, but let me know the next time we speak if that's not correct. But it's very nice to see you here. Um, and again, let me know in the comments if you have questions for any of the things that I'm saying, or just in general, if you have questions, then let me know about job search, going to Denmark, not the kind of thing about immigration stuff, and I know nothing about that, but the job search, the career, all of this, feel free to ask me questions about that. Okay, so like I was saying, networking, very, very important. Then going from, I had a question about coffee meetings, and the question was framed something along the lines of, so can you tell me what I'm doing wrong, or what can I do when to get coffee meetings? I've been reaching out to people when I've seen job ads. I've been reaching out and trying to get coffee meetings with the hiring managers and HR people and other people that I know from the companies. And here my advice is, don't do that. Sorry. Not don't do the coffee meetings, but don't do the coffee meetings with people who are looking for someone. I hope that makes sense, but I'm gonna explain no matter if it does not. What I mean here is that what you use coffee meetings for is to get knowledge about an industry, a company, or a career path. That means that when you do coffee meetings, it's not to ask for a job. You never ask for a job, or if anyone has a job for you at a coffee meeting. You use that information, you gather all of this information, And then you use that the next time there's a job in that company, in that industry, with that career path. So when you are asking people who already have an opening, a job opening, then it's gonna feel like you're just trying to get ahead of or give yourself an advantage in in terms of the seeking process. So why would an HR person or a manager that you have no relation to at all give you that advantage in front of everyone else who's applying? They usually won't. So I would actually usually I will try not to do coffee meetings with HR or um, yeah, basically with HR people or direct managers of where you're applying, at least when they have job openings, but also sometimes just when. So the thing is that's when people are asking me, I get connection requests on LinkedIn, and that's amazing. I love it. Remember to write me a note if you if you connect with me. Um, but then people write me and they're like, hey, blah, 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 I'm looking for a job. Could you please review my cover letter or my CV, or could you please give me some feedback? And I'm like, that's amazing. Thank you so much for connecting. But this is my service. This is what I actually sell people. So I'm not doing that for free. So basically, that's the same thing you're doing when you're asking HR for coffee meetings when they have job openings. You're asking them for their time for something that is their job. So basically, if I ask for a coffee meeting, I will ask based on interest, based on me being able to learn something. I will ask based on them telling about them. So if you were to ask a I don't know, let's say you're going to ask someone who has a company that they have a startup, they have been successful and you've been following them, and that's amazing. So you would ask for a coffee meeting. Then you would ask, "Hey Peter, I see that you've started this successful company. I think that's really interesting. I would love to hear more about that if you want to share this with me." It's not a, "Hey Peter, I see that you started this company. I would love to know how I can get hired with you." Because then all of a sudden you are demanding something from that person that they might not have. So be curious when you ask for coffee meetings. Be interested in, like I said, the company, the industry, or the career path. So coffee meetings are more knowledge expanding and creating ambassadors for yourself than it is actually asking for a job. It's never asking for a job. They might, at the end of a conversation, say, "Hey, Deanna, by the way, our company has this open position. It might be interesting to you." "Oh, amazing. Would you mind putting in a good word for me?" Then, because now they know you a little bit. Or they might ask you to share your CV at the end of the coffee meeting, and that's amazing. But other than that, it's just you getting information and trying to figure out, ooh, when I'm in this industry, this part is important in Denmark. This is another thing, by the way, that you can use coffee meetings for. It's learning about the cultural differences. So basically, when you move to a new country or you plan on moving to a new country, there's definitely going to be a lot of cultural differences. So make sure that you look into, is this something that is very different from where you live? Is it something that you need to keep in mind when you're applying for jobs? Or how does it work here? And what you'll see with Danes is usually that we are fairly closed off when it comes to the personal space, meaning that you are not likely to be invited home to a Dane for birthday parties or a drink or something unless you know them really, really well. We kind of tend to be very private about our personal lives. Most of Danes are not. Well, I'm not gonna invite people home either, but I'm fairly sharing. Okay, that was a side note. But what I then experience, and as well for myself, is that most Danes love to do this in a work setting. We are very open and love to share. One of the things that I hear a lot of my clients say is that, oh, but I don't want to be a bother and I can't give anything to the person I'm asking. So, what can I contribute with? But the idea with a coffee meeting is not for you to contribute, it's for you to learn. And most people love talking about themselves, by the way. So, this is fine. So, you want to have them contribute, or you don't have, if you feel like you don't have anything to contribute with, that's totally okay, because it's always going to be a conversation, and you have knowledge, you have something to share, especially if you're an international moving to Denmark or who has been in Denmark. It's really interesting to learn about different cultures and stuff, so you do have something. But if you're really in the mindset that you don't know what you can bring to the table, think about it as, well, I'm gonna take all of the information I can get right now in the most positive way, and then I'm going to pay that forward to someone else at some other time. So this could be you sharing knowledge about your move to Denmark, or you sharing knowledge when you've gotten a job about how you got into that job. All of these things. So if you don't feel like you have anything to contribute right now, then think about, well, then I'm going to pay it forward when I'm at the next stage of whatever your situation is. And remember to also not make decisions for other people. What I mean by that is, I hear a lot of my clients say, well, I wanted it to reach out to this person, but I know that they're very busy and don't have time. But the thing is that you don't know for sure usually, unless you're very, very, very closely related to people, and then they probably want to say yes anyways because they like you. But the thing you see mostly online is often what we want people to see, and we want people to see that we're busy, and usually people are, but they can also take half an hour to speak with someone because they get to speak about themselves. So let people make their own decision, reach out, and then let them make their own decision based on their time schedule and what you're asking. So if they don't have time, if they don't find it valuable, one or two things are going to happen. Either they will just not answer you. That happens. Some people get a lot of requests. It's not necessarily anything to do with you, but they just don't answer because they are overwhelmed or they're annoying people. But let's go with they have a lot of requests and they just don't have the time to answer everyone that writes them. That's one thing. Or they're going to politely write you and say, I'm so sorry, I don't have the resources right now. And if that's the case, then you say, that's totally fine. Thank you so much for replying to me. Is there anyone else you would recommend me speaking to then? Because then you're already starting a conversation and starting a bit of a relationship maybe that you can work on in time, and connecting with them on LinkedIn, commenting on their posts, stuff like that. Stuff that will build up a relation that would actually make them say yes to that coffee meeting in the future. And one of the things that I notice a lot of people doing as well is talking about who to contact. Like, I've been contacting so many people on LinkedIn and none of them are answering me, and or they're saying no to meeting with me, and I don't understand because Diana, you're keep telling me I need to do coffee meetings, but it's not happening for me. And I'm like, yes, I keep telling you that you should do coffee meetings, but you might want to choose another strategy to get those coffee meetings in the calendar. And now I'm just going to take a little bit of my tea. And very on purpose, I have my mindset is everything here because it is. Okay, so a strategy for finding the people who want to do coffee meetings with you, hey Priya, welcome, would be to look into your inner circle, first of all. What's important to think about is that everyone knows that, or everybody knows other people, either through work or through network or through growing up and all of these things. And I know if you're totally new to a country, that's of course maybe not the case, but then you maybe know someone who's been to Denmark, or you know someone who's been traveling abroad a lot, or you know someone that you can reach out to in some capacity. So basically, start with the people you already know, because as I mentioned just before, people you already know are more likely to say yes when you ask them for a favor or a coffee meeting, which kind of a favor, right? So start with the people who are in your inner circle, network wise. Is there someone who already work in the industry, in the company you find interesting, or who has a career path that's interesting for you? Maybe you have someone who, let's say that you are an engineer and you either just graduated, or you just moved here, meaning that you also need to kind of adjust to the new country by stepping a bit down career wise. I'm not saying that's the case always, and I'm not saying go for stepping down career wise. I would much rather have you actually apply on your level, but sometimes it can be necessary. But let's say that you're a newly graduated engineer and you want a coffee meeting with someone who you know someone in your network who is a senior engineer, then you can ask that person for a coffee meeting and say, hey, let's go with Peter again. I see that you've had such an interesting career. I would love to hear more about it. And I see that we have the same educational background. So I'm very curious about how did you get to where you are? So you can do this based on nationality as well. So saying, I know that there's a very big Indian community in Denmark, for example. So if you're Indian, then it would be going into maybe also some of the Indian Facebook groups, or I don't know if there's any LinkedIn groups, but at least Facebook groups are where you can say, hey guys, I would love either find specific people, or here you could also say, hey guys, I'm new to the country, or I'm looking for something within this area. Is there someone here who has been in Denmark for a while, already have a job and have this educational background? I would love to have a 30 or 60-minute chat with you, either online or I will come to you and to your workplace to make it less time consuming for you. And tell me, I would love to know about how did you get settled in Denmark? How did you land your job? What was important in the job search process for you? All of these things. Just share what it is that you want, and basically you want them to share their stories and share their information. And like I said before, people usually love to talk about themselves. Another small tip here is that people usually, it's a nice thing to ask people, or to suggest people that you can come to them. For example, if I'm at work, I will be more likely to say yes if someone asks me, Diana, could we have a coffee meeting? I'll of course come to you. Because then I only need to set off that hour for the coffee meeting. I don't need to also include travel time and figuring out where to meet and all of these things. So for me as the one getting asked, that's a good thing. And for the people who are asking, so for you guys, that's also an amazing thing, because all of a sudden you get the chance to get inside a workplace or company. So getting that and getting the feel for this company is an amazing opportunity. Hi Rashmi, welcome. Remember, feel free to type questions in the chat if you have any. It's amazing to see so many of you on live. And I would love to know, for the people who haven't yet, let me know where you're from. Let me know where you're based now and where you're from. And then also if you have some job search or career related questions. It doesn't have to be about the thing I'm speaking about right now, which is network and coffee meetings. It can also be about anything else job search related. But yeah, so when you ask people to, if you can come, or suggest people that you can come, because it should be more of a suggestion than an ask. So saying that, hey, coffee meeting, blah, blah, blah. I would be delighted to come to you, but we can also find a cafe or something near where you work, making it as easy as possible, instead of saying, "Ooh, can I come see your workplace?" Because again, the words you use are important. Um, and then you get the opportunity to maybe even meet some of the colleagues at that workplace, but you definitely need to, or you definitely get to see um, the environment, see how does this company, what does it look like on the inside, what does it feel like, because sometimes you also show up and you're like, oh, there's this energy here that I don't really vibe with, and that's fine, because coffee meetings is about learning. It's all about learning the entire process of getting that information, figuring out, and maybe let's say that you're going for a coffee meeting with someone at Novo Nordisk, and you're going for a coffee meeting in one department, and you're kind of feeling like, there's something here that I don't really vibe with. Then don't say, ooh, Novo Nordisk is not for me, because Novo Nordisk is a huge company, and it might be that that department is just not for you. But then there's another department that is amazing and that the field would be just right for you. So don't just categorically say no to specific companies based on one meeting. And always try to, both with job interviews but also coffee meetings, after you've finished your coffee meeting, make sure to go in and analyze it. um, so that you know that what went well, what did not go so well, what can you do better the next time you have a coffee meeting. Is there something that you forgot to ask? Because then write it down now. You can write a follow-up message or email. What was really interesting about this person? What was really interesting about this company, about this industry? Write all of this down. Also, if they gave you some personal information, write it down, because you can then use that the next time you speak to them, saying, hey, how are the kids? I remember you said you had a 12-year-old. How's a teenage going into teenage going for you guys? Stuff like that. Like, the more we can kind of be personal with people, the better, right? Because then we are creating that connection and creating the network. It's important. It's not about being false. It's not. It's about being strategic, but also wanting to connect with people. Because if you don't really want to connect with people, it doesn't really matter that much. But getting to know people will. I know that some internationals join a lot of national related or nationality related things, and I encourage you to do that, because it might be an easier way in the beginning to get into a new country and to get that vibe of what is it like here, and then branch out, find other networking capacities. Do what's it called, Toastmasters, for example. They are in Denmark as well, and there's something called Rotary Club, but I'm not sure if that's actually for, well, never mind. But my point here is, find some kind of network that will be beneficial for you to collaborate with. When you finish up your coffee meeting, and I'll move on from the coffee meetings in just one second, but I just want to say, when you finish up a coffee meeting, feel free to ask, is there someone in your network that you think would be beneficial for me to speak to? Or is there someone in your network that that I can reach out to? Or you could have looked in that person's LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn so much. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, make a LinkedIn profile. It is so important in Denmark. It's the place to be in terms of job search in Denmark. But look into their LinkedIn profile and figure out if there's someone in their network that makes sense for you to speak to. And then say, hey, Peter, thank you so much for this conversation. You can either do this in person when you finish up, or you can do this in the follow-up email saying, I noticed that you have Sophie in your network who seems really, really interesting. Would you mind connecting us, or would you recommend me to speak with her? Because again, we always get more, we're more likely to say yes if we know people or if people come recommended to us. That's also why I'm saying that it's a great idea to start with your inner circle, because that is exactly the people who want to say yes and then move out slowly. And that's also why it takes time to network. And I know this can be so stressful, but when you're in a new country where you don't know the language usually, so learn Danish if you're in Denmark, learn whatever language if you're somewhere else. The language is so, so, so important, because if you are on the same level as someone who also speaks the language, you're gonna be the one not chosen. So learn the language. I'm just gonna look into the comments right now because I forgot my train of thought, but remind me if there's something I haven't said. Is volunteering help networking or okay, so if volunteering is helps in networking or it has any importance in resume. So yes and yes. Volunteering is amazing because it expands your network. And you can then do those coffee meetings with these people, and even though they might not be in your own industry, they can then maybe help you. They are connected to a lot of people as well. So it's not always about the person you know, but it's their network. You're creating, the person you know becomes your ambassador, and usually will get the jobs in the second or third connection. So getting like volunteering, especially if it doesn't, well, it can be relevant, but it doesn't have to be. If you're moving here because you're a spouse and your spouse works in one of the companies that are part of what's called the IDCN, then you can actually volunteer there with a lot of internationals and a lot of highly educated or academic spouses, and they have connections both into the companies but also to each other, and that can create a great community that whenever the other people who are looking for jobs get jobs, then you have a way into a new company and a new company and a new company. That's why I always encourage people to network also with other people who are looking for jobs, because we do get jobs. People get jobs and then they're not unemployed anymore. Then they are your connection into the next company. I hope that makes sense. And yes, on the resume, it's amazing because no matter what you do, two things I think volunteering does. It shows something about who are you as a person. It shows something if you choose to volunteer with, I don't know, homeless people or children or whatever you do, or you go in and you develop skills. So, for example, you could start with Toastmasters. When you join them, it's not as much volunteering, but when you join them, you gain speaking. Wow, that's a great way to, or a great place to pause, right? But you gain speaking skills when you do that because you need to present speeches as a member of Toastmasters. So having all of these things on your resume is a great idea because you're gonna get so much, so many skills that you can develop with being a volunteer. And what's important here is that you need to be able to show the company what is it, why is it that these skills that you've learned are important. So when you write your resume, you never use a standard resume. You always put it, you always make it specific to the company that you're applying with. Meaning that when you have a volunteer job, or you've made a project. I'm going to use the project as an analogy here because then I can use my own example. Um, when I graduated, I started, or I was very, very frustrated because I was unemployed for 2 years because I took this amazing master's degree in branding and communications. And I was like, I'm not going to go work in the industry or in an agency, but I don't know what I'm going to do. My school had not um, taught me how to actually apply for jobs, and they had also not taught me that I was not going to be a manager in my first job. So I was applying for the wrong jobs. But what I did, because I was so frustrated that I could not find a podcast about job search, so I started one. And that project is what has led me directly to where I am today. That's one thing. But it was just me starting this project or this podcast as my own project. And it gave me so many new skills. So one thing was, of course, the podcasting and all of the technical skills. But I interviewed so many interesting people about this and experts within it that I learned all of these things myself, that I started helping other people, which then led me to me being asked if I wanted it to come for an interview for a job I hadn't applied for, by the way, based on me being active and branding myself. So even with going forward then, in my resume, I will always have that project on there. And I will always say, so if I'm applying for a job that's with one-to-one coaching sessions, I will focus on the knowledge I've learned from the podcast and how I've used that going forward. If I'm applying for a job where I am supposed to be more technical and more planning, I will be focusing on, well, I planned out this entire podcast. I did all of this myself. So it depends on what the job I'm applying for is. And then I'm focusing in that in the resume. Does that answer the question? Let me know. Poria, after having a coffee meeting about industry and so on, is it appropriate to be in touch with the person and ask them like personal questions and make the connection stronger? Yeah, I think what I would do, depending on how well you know the person in advance of that coffee meeting, tread lightly. So basically, don't become too personal too fast, but build up the connection more slowly. So if it's someone you don't really know and you've had a good coffee meeting, if you're not already, connect with them on LinkedIn and then start commenting, start tagging them in stuff you think might be interesting for them, and then build up that connection nice and slowly. Maybe figure out in a non-stalkerish way, I have to point this out, don't stalk people, but maybe look into, because if it's someone that's working in your industry and in an area that you would like to be in, then maybe try to figure out, is there any events that they're going to? Are there any like networking things that could be of interest to you as well, where you can then connect with them more? It's a process. It's something that happens over time, right? What about general jobs? Sometimes we do unrelated to our field part-time jobs while we're looking for the job. Should we include them in the resumes too? It depends. If it is something that, the thing is that what it shows when you have a job is that you're willing to do something that makes you more interesting in the sense that they know that you're a hard worker. If this job becomes too long, you also take yourself away from your area of expertise. I think whatever you do, what's really, really important is that you manage to do the same as with the volunteering positions. And that is to explain what is it that you've done in this not relevant job that you can relate into the job you're applying for. So let's say that you are working in, I'm going to use an example here, Poria, that might hit home, but that you're working in the tourism industry and you are going to, and you actually want to be working with streamlining processes. And one of the things that, even though you have this non-related job in tourism during the summer, for example, you've been noticing that, ooh, this process that we have here in this job could actually be streamlined and optimized in this way. So you went to your manager and you helped actually optimize that work process. Then when you then apply for a new job, you can say, I was this, but I actually did this to help the company. Even though it was unrelated, I did this to help the company be more relevant, or be more profitable, because I helped them streamline this process. I hope this makes sense. But another thing that I think is equally important is actually how you then structure your CV or your resume. And one of the things I've started coaching people in doing, and been doing myself when I've been applying for jobs past, is focusing on what's relevant. So instead of saying, oh, this is my educational background, this is my job background or experience background, this is my volunteer work, this is my projects, then I turn it around and I say, I start with a profile. So basically, my profile text is a teaser that I already here connect the company to my profile, or to me as a person. So that's where I start. And then going from there, I will go relevant experience and projects. That would be my headline. So it wouldn't be just having education or experience. It would be everything that's important. Still, it would be in reversed chronological order. So the newest things first, and then going from there. So basically, I would go relevant and then other. So I would look at my base CV or my master CV, because I'm sure you already have. If you don't, then make it a master CV where everything you've ever done, put that in there. If you are a academic, if you have a bachelor's degree, don't go further back than don't high school is not important here in terms of education. Start with your bachelor's degree. So remember, think relevance when you are thinking about your CV. Always, always, always relevance to the job you're applying for now, right? But you look into your master CV, and then you will go in and you will look at, okay, I have two piles here from my master CV. Some of it is relevant, some of it is other. So how do I divide this in? All of the things from your master CV that goes into the relevant pile, put that there. And then all of the other things into the other. And then you say, well, now I have my relevant pile. And then I mix it up. I do it in reverse chronological order. That's a hard thing to say. So that means that whatever I did most recently goes on top. If that was write a book, or if that was doing the podcast, then that goes on top. And then a job, and then something else, a job, and something else. So whatever is the most relevant goes on top. Because we want them to fall in love with you. Or maybe not you, but your profile. So we want the HR and the manager to fall in love with your profile as fast as possible. And the best way of doing that is serving them with all of the things that are actually relevant for the position you're applying for. So that means that you will do this so in reverse chronological order in terms of what's relevant and the other things, but you will also go in for each position that you have. You would go in and say, okay, so I've been working, or let me go, I'm using the podcast as an example. So I did this podcast. Then I'm going to see the job and I'm going to say, ooh, I got like 10 different competencies when I did this. But for this job and those 10 different competencies, I will have them listed in the master CV. So the master CV is everything I've done, but it's also under each thing, project or job I've had, I'm also putting in all of the tasks I had, all of the things I've been doing. So going in and then saying, okay, so from these 10, 12 things I did with the podcast, which 3, maybe 4, but I would keep it to 2 or 3 things are relevant to the position I'm applying for now. And it's important to know that I had a job where I was doing one-to-one coaching sessions and I was doing teaching as well. But then I was also developing teaching materials. So if I was then looking for a job where the focus would be teaching materials, even though in my past job the teaching material development was maybe only 10%, that's what I'm going to focus on. Then I'm going to highlight that the most because I did it. I do have the experience. It might not be what I did the most, but if I'm going into a job where I'm not going to have any one-to-one teaching or one-to-one coaching, I'm not going to focus that much on that part. What I could do, I could say that my one-to-one coaching made it easier for me to do the teaching materials. But now I have that experience already, so I know how to do teaching materials because I've been working with that as well. Is that making sense? Let me know, and thank you for the good questions, by the way. And of course, if you are not already subscribed to the channel, feel free to do so. I'm going to be doing some lives coming up the next period of time, at least. And I'll see how that goes, and then we'll see. Yeah. Okay, so let me just see here. 1 second. Oh. I see some hearts, but I'm not sure what that means. Okay, so, okay. Oh, now I'm moving around. That was not on purpose, sorry. Okay, so I also got a question about how to show your personality in your CV. And I kind of answered that already, but just to frame it in this way, I want to say that that's what I've just been talking about is basically what I will do. So you're showing your personality through the things you've been doing, through the volunteer work, through the jobs you've had, through the education you took, but also making it so that it connects to the company. We want to use the CV and the cover letter for that matter, to tell the story that connects us to the company. So what I mean by that is that when we, let me see, I just need to figure out how to explain this the best. Because when we connect, if I'm telling people, okay, so I have an engineering degree. I don't, by the way, but as an example, I have an engineering degree and I'm applying for this job here. Then they need to sit there and see, okay, so you have an engineering degree in electronics. I then need to figure out how does that work with the job I have here. So what we want to do as job seekers is we want to say, I have an engineering degree in electronics and I can use it in this way to create value for your company in this position. Because then they don't have to think as much. You're showing them that you've actually put thought into how you can create value for them. Does this make sense? Let me know. I would love to know in the chat if this makes sense for you, because if not, I really want to explain it better. But the idea is that the less we can make people, oh, that's gonna sound wrong. I was gonna say think. Basically, we like to get things served. And meaning when you read a CV and a cover letter, if you don't need to make all of those connections yourself, then it's easier to sit there and be like, yeah, interesting. I can see that. That makes sense. I really want to hire this person or interview this person, because that connection, they don't have to do that themselves. And I want to say to you guys that, and thank you for letting me know, making this connection, like showing the companies how can I actually create value for you, is going to put you way ahead of a lot of other applicants. A lot of applications are standard CVs where they don't adjust them. They're just like me, 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 me. I'm explaining myself, who am I in my CV, and that's the same no matter what company I'm applying for. If you start to motivate each CV, you need to spend about 50% of your time on your CV and then the other 50 on the cover letter, if they need a cover letter. But if you start explaining that in your CV already, what's the connection? You're way ahead of the curve when you're talking. I cannot promise you the job interviews, but I can promise you that you're closer. And it's going to happen at some point, of course. So making that connection and making them focus. And then remember, when you're looking into writing your CV and your cover letters are still a thing in Denmark, by the way. And most companies actually want you to do this. The CV is, of course, about you and the past, but in connection to the company. Whereas the cover letter is about you and the company and the future. So meaning that this is where you want to tell them, how can you guys create value together? What is it that you can bring? What I see most people do is they just expand on their CV. Excuse me. Sorry. So they expand on their CV saying, oh, and then I did this project, and then they use paragraph to talk about that project, instead of saying, oh, so I can see that we can together, based on the experience I have from this project, we can do this and this and this. And that doesn't need to be necessarily correct, in the sense that it should be correct based on the amount of information you have. But you already know that you, or the company already know that you as an applicant do not have all the information, but it shows effort. It shows that you put in time and energy into researching the company. And of course, if you know me already, you know that I would say what? Call the company. So that information you can get from calling the company is going to be invaluable to you. Let me see here. Do we have to mention interpersonal skills in the CV in a different subheading? No, I not necessarily. It depends on your setup, right? Because I tend to get all of these things into each description. So I do it in the profile, and then I get it into the position. But it depends on how you set up, or how you set up your CV, what you choose to do. And I really want to touch upon, I hope that answered the question, Divya. I want to touch upon the whole thing about calling you guys. Well, not calling you guys, but calling the manager if there is a phone number. When you see job postings in Denmark, a lot of them have phone numbers for you to contact them. And one of the things I hear is like, well, I don't have any questions. I have all of the information in the job posting. And I want to tell you that no, you don't. It might seem like it, but you don't. When people call, they get so much more information that they can use to make their information or their material much more directed towards that position and towards the company. So about 10% call. These are not the newest numbers, but this is the last numbers I have about this. So about 10% of people call on a job posting. Of those 10%, about 5 ask good questions. That means if you call and you're like, well, Diana said I had to call, then you're going to get into the no pile straight away. What you want to do is you want to ask questions that are relevant and interesting, that shows that you've researched and you shows that you have an interest in this company. One of the easy ones, it's a good idea to ask questions that shows that you know the field. But one of the more easy ones, I do have, by the way, a blog article, I think, about this. Let me check in just a second. But otherwise I'm gonna have to write it now. But one of the things that you could ask that's fairly easy would be, So you write in the job posting that there are these 7 tasks that um, that's part of the job. Could you tell me a little bit about how would my week look like when I have these tasks? How would it be divided on these tasks? The reason you want to ask a question like this and not say, this is actually important, not say which of these tasks are most important. You could ask, which of these tasks would I spend the most of my time on? But never which task is most important. I did this once personally, and there were like 10 tasks in this job posting. And she was like, well, they're all important. And I was like, okay. Then I did not apply for that job because it had stress written all over it. Um, but what it gives you, if you're saying, so how would my time be distributed between these posts or these tasks, you will get an idea of what the most important task is. Because then you're saying, oh, 50% of your time will be teaching. Okay, then I know that I want my material to focus on teaching as one of the things I focus on. So using these calls to ask some very, very good questions that can help you motivate and help leave a good impression. It's never, and this is one of the things that I experience so much, that people who call and then they just pitch themselves and they're just, I find your position so interesting, and this is why I'm amazing at it. This is why you need to hire me. Not what the call is for. The 5%, let's say 100 applications, 5 people, ask really good, interesting questions that will get them information, that will get them things they can use in their material. If the conversation's been really, really good, the company might ask, so what is it that you can contribute with? Or can you tell us a little bit about yourself, or me a little bit about yourself? That's amazing. It's not necessarily, but don't, if they don't ask, it's not that it's been a bad conversation. It just might have been that they didn't have the time. But out of the 5 people who then actually ask good questions and get some great answers from a good conversation, only 1 or 2 use that information in their material. So you really want to take this information you get from calling and put that into your material so that you can see that, or they can see that you've actually listened and you've used it. So I also see a lot of people who are, oh, so now I'm going to write my material and then I'm going to call. Don't do that. Read the job description, prepare, research, then call, and then write the material. Oh, sorry. Then write the material. Because you get so much amazing information in that phone call, if you do it right, that you can use in your cover letter. And also to motivate your CV. I hope that makes sense. I am going to go look real quick on my website to see if I wrote that article or if I just think I wrote that article. So give me 1 second. Do you guys have any questions? Then let me know in the chat. I did not. I should do that. So I am gonna do that when I have some time. Yeah, so basically make sure to ask some good questions. So what you can do, I know that I have some good questions lined up in a PDF somewhere. If you want that, sign up for, well, write me a message or sign up for my newsletter. I'm just gonna send you the link for the sign up if I can do that. Oh. Okay, I need to sign into chat. That makes no sense. There we are. So that's the sign up for my newsletter that you can join if you're not already. And then you can just answer one of my weekly emails and say, hey, Diana, it comes out on Sunday. You can just say, hey, Diana, I would love to get that document about what questions to actually ask when I call. And another way to find some great answers actually is to use ChatGPT. So great, yeah, to find out what great questions to ask. So what you can basically do, if you know how to use ChatGPT, you can go in and you can upload the ad, and you can upload a scraped version of your CV, meaning that you will delete all of the personal information, your cover or your phone number, your email, your address, all of these things. Your address should not be on your CV, by the way. But upload these things and then say, act as someone who is going to go to a job interview, and give me the 5 most interesting questions to ask based on my CV in terms of this job posting. I did this. I don't think I put a number on it. I think it came out with like 14 questions, and they were actually really good. The only thing you really need to be aware of is there something that is it something that's relevant? So it's important to keep the relevance in focus. Don't just blindly accept what ChatGPT gives you. You need to be observant on whether it actually makes sense. Okay, so I have a couple of more questions here that I was asked before going live. So I want to, of course, go into them. Before I do that, I just want to say that here come fall, which is soon. But it's probably gonna be late October, start November. I'm gonna launch a job and career network that you're very, very welcome to join, of course. If you feel like that could be interesting and maybe help you, it's gonna focus on the job search part. It's gonna focus on the career part in Denmark. If you want to join that, you can join my email list, and I will keep you updated on that as well. And there's going to be some great founding members benefits to it. So that I'm going to tell you guys some more about soon. Yeah, okay, so next question here on my list is how to approach job search in Denmark. That's a really, really big question, but I'm gonna try and tackle it. And we've already been speaking a little bit about some of it. So, of course, networking is really, really important. And then using Jobindex. So, Jobindex is Denmark's biggest job search engine. I do have a video on how to use Jobindex, and I will find it and link it for you. Because it's actually, oh, sorry, I cannot multitask. I need an assistant. Oh, there's so many good. There we go. There's so many good opportunities in using Jobindex to both find jobs and also to find information. So if you want to find people to connect with on LinkedIn, for example, in a specific industry or a specific company, you can go in and find them on Jobindex, and then find the company on Jobindex, and then look into who are the contact people in that job ad, and then go find them on LinkedIn. And I don't recommend just blindly connecting with them. Just start by following the company and following the people in the company, and start interacting in their comments on their posts. And then after that, then you can, when you've been kind of connecting, and we've talking about earlier, the creating this connection with people, after you've done that for a little while, you can then ask people to connect. So using Jobindex is for sure a great start to job search in Denmark. I think about, I don't know if I said it, but about 80% of all job postings in Denmark are gonna be posted on, or gonna be shown on Jobindex. So using that combined with LinkedIn is a great strategy. one of the things that I don't necessarily recommend doing is these quick apply things where you will just send your Jobindex or your, but by the way, upload your CV to Jobindex or fill out a description. That's how I got my first job. That was actually with Jobindex, where I was contacted because I had a profile in their CV database. So the um, fill out their database and fill out your LinkedIn, but don't use the quick apply unless your CV is very, very specific. Because the thing is that when you do quick apply, it will usually just take your base CV from LinkedIn or from Jobindex and send. So that will very much counter all of the things I've been talking about with motivating your material towards the specific company. So I would rather use a bit more time. And it's the thing about when you spend more time to get to know companies, to get to know the people, networking, all of these things, it seems like it's taking a lot longer, but you will get to know an industry, you will get to know the people, you will get to know stuff that will make it easier for you to actually land the interviews. So even though it seems like it's a longer process, it's usually a shorter process than just searching or applying for everything with like a standard CV. I'm not saying that could not work, and it definitely depends on what industry you're in, because some industries just are so in lack of work that it's okay to do it that way. But basically, make sure that we all like to get things that are, if you get a gift, it's much nicer to get a gift that's actually put some thought into and specifically for you, versus something that's just buying you a gift card, right? Unless you really wanted a gift card, of course. But the idea is kind of the same, that you really want to make sure that you motivate whatever it is you're doing towards the companies, because you're much more likely to get the jobs when you do that. Let's see, what else? Yes, I also had someone asking about feedback. I'm curious. So, do you guys um, ask for feedback um, when you apply for a job and you don't get it? Do you ask the company for feedback, and what's your experience with doing that? The reason we want to ask for feedback is that when we get feedback, we can adjust and we can get better at job search, because job search is kind of like everything else in life. You're not necessarily good at it from the beginning. Some people are, but like with everything else, there's a natural talent for things. Um, they reply and call even. Amazing. That's really good. Um, the person who asked me here, I most tend to have automated answers, so I can't, but I would love to. Okay, so you can't ask for feedback, or how what do you mean by this? Okay, so if I go all the way back, um, to the whole idea of calling the company, if you have the option of calling the company, then if you've done that, you already have a better connection with people. So then it's also easier, even if you didn't get the interview, to actually call that person up again and say, hey, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you spending the time on me before I applied and stuff. Would you mind giving me a bit of feedback? And then when you did not get an interview, ask, instead of saying, would you mind giving me a bit of feedback on my material? Because then that person who's either in midst of the recruitment process, or they already finished the recruitment process, needs to kind of figure out where is your material and what was it and blah blah blah. So instead of doing that, then ask them, so what did you guys focus on with the people you actually chose to interview? What was the main skills they had that you chose to focus on? What you get from that is you get the option of, or you get more knowledge about what is it that's important for that company. And then you can follow it up with saying, okay, so would you think it would be beneficial for me if I'm applying for a job like this with you guys again another time to get this certification? Or should I, what is it like? Give something specific, because the thing is, when you ask them what did you focus on, then that's knowledge they already have, so they don't need to spend more time. And when you're asking, so would this certificate then help me based on what they were saying, or would experience in this area help me and the next time, then it's something that they can answer right away. They don't have to spend extra time. It's a bit different if you had a job interview, of course, then they can give you more specific feedback. And then, of course, I'm sorry, but it sucks to get rejected, but use this as a learning process. Use the information you're getting to help you improve for the next and the next and the next job. Okay. I think so what you're writing is that you go through LinkedIn, and then it's usually through an automated email that you get um, rejected. I would, I think in that case, for one, I would try and maybe use another tactic for your job search in general. Not that you LinkedIn is bad, you can definitely use it, but I would, if possible, always apply directly through the company website. Also, because I just heard about this the other day and read up on people being scammed with fake job ads, where usually what they want you to do is give out billing information or payment information, which is, you will never experience that in a job ad. You will never experience the company wanting you to pay them something, any fees like that. But going directly through, so by going directly through the company websites, you will avoid that. You'll make sure that there's actually a job for the company you're applying for. But then I would, and this is me, and I know I'm extremely extroverted. That's also why I've been sitting here for an hour and 15 minutes. But I would call them up. So I would call up the company, and I would try to get around the gatekeeper, which is like their main um, phone number, if you can. If you can find something that's a bit more focused on the department or whatever it is that you've been applying for, and then ask them, simply say, hey, I applied, I did not get accepted for the interview, or I got the interview, but would you mind sharing with me what did you focus on? Or find an email that you can send to. I would always, always, always try to call if it's a possibility, because it creates better connection, which can help you going forward as well. So definitely try and do that. Try and get the feedback in that way. And sometimes I know that it's like, sometimes the companies just don't answer, or sometimes it's just they just give you some, I'm sorry, but bullshit answer um, that you can't really use for anything. And that's life. Then you just say, okay, thank you, and move on. Don't spend too much time dwelling on the fact that they didn't want to treat you nicely. Then what you can take from that is whether this is a company you really want to work with, or maybe just if this is a manager you really want to work with, because usually it's not necessarily the manager or the um sorry, the company itself, but the specific manager that is responsible for that. So I hope that made sense. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, I would really love for you to do that. because it helps the algorithm. It helps me reach even more people. So if you're getting any value from this video, this stream, feel free to really to subscribe and maybe like the video as well. That would be amazing. Okay, so again, also if you have questions, let me know. The last thing I have here on my list for today would be, and by the way, if you have any topics you would like for me to do specific videos on or specific live streams on, let me know. I'm considering doing one on LinkedIn branding in terms of job seeking. But let me know in the chat or by email if there's any specific topics you would love for me to cover in a live stream or just a video. Okay, so the last question I have, and I really hope that I've covered all of the questions good enough. But the last one I have is how to stay motivated and focused when you get rejections. Okay, so before going into that, I'm just gonna answer it here. Thank you for your answer. I have following question. Would it be considered rude if I send a message directly to a recruiter or a headhunter? No, it depends on the question, I would guess. And it also depends on recruiters and headhunters usually look for people, right? So it depends on if you write them and say, hey, could you take a look at my resume? Don't, unless there's something that makes sense, then don't just expect people to look through your material. Ask them questions. It's fine to write them. I would connect, or I would write, basically I think I would write them in a message on LinkedIn in an in-mail before connecting. And then I would use the email provided in the job posting if there's a job posting. In general, we like giving more information to serious job seekers, because if we as HR people or managers, recruiters, give you guys the right information, the more information we give you, the better applications we will get from you guys. So asking questions are an amazing thing to do, as long as you are nice about it and like ask polite questions, then do that for sure. Important. Ask all the questions you, with respect for time, of course, but really do ask the questions. I would, like I said before, I would very much encourage you to call rather than just write, because you create a better connection with the person at the other end of a phone call than you do by just answering or by just texting. I actually had a candidate who there was no phone number in the job ad, and we talked about it, and then we decided she should write an email instead. So what she did, she wrote an email saying something along the lines of, hey, I have some questions. If you have the time to jump on a call, I would really appreciate it. If not, I've also attached my questions to the email. Have a great day. Let me know when it fits that I can call you and provide me with your number. It's important that you make it as easy for them as possible. So basically when saying, let me know when I can call you up and give me your phone number or provide me with your phone number, you're letting them choose the time and you're giving yourself the task to actually call them. So what happened was she got an email back saying, hey, amazing, can we jump on a Zoom call? So she actually got that pre-interview before the interview, which can be, that's what some of this can do sometimes. So that was amazing, because then she got not only the phone call, she actually got a video call, which can create even more connection with people. I hope that makes sense. Thank you for subscribing. Okay, so how to stay focused after rejections? That can be so hard. I wrote an article about this, and this one I actually did write back in the day, when I was looking for jobs myself, or just after. And the thing is that when we get rejected, when we are applying for jobs, what we do is, for every interesting job, we kind of start putting our mindset towards, ooh, now I'm a controller in this company, and this is what my identity is going to be like when I land this job. And the further in the process we get, the more we identify with that position, that company, those people. And then when we get a rejection, we kind of get a bucket of ice water in the head saying, well, sorry about that. So our identity gets a kick, kind of. So the more we do that, the more our identity kind of scatters a little bit. I hope that makes sense. Um, so the mental health part of being a job seeker is really, really important. It's also one of the things that I'm going to be focusing on in the network I'm starting in the fall. Because I think that it's underestimated by a lot of people, because no one is expecting to be job seekers for a longer period of time. A lot of people are just expecting that it's 3 months and then they have a job. And that happens for some people. But even more so when you are an international moving to a new country, to get a job is harder. Um, so you should expect the time to be maybe up to a year or more, even sometimes, to find that job. And actually, I know this can be hard to hear, but sometimes it's also okay, because it gives you time to get to know the culture, get to create that network, get to, like, not be all stressed out all the time. So it's easier to start if you're already settled in other parts of your life. So I think that sometimes it can be okay, actually. Um, so yeah, the mental health part is so important. So focusing on what else is it? So where are there other things in your day-to-day life that you identify as? Because when you start to identify with the different jobs you're applying for and you're not getting them, then you need to keep a hold on the things that are steady for you. Is it that you're a volunteer, or your mom or dad, or you, whatever it is, a musician, an artist? Like, what is it that also defines you? What is the things that you identity wise can actually keep track of, and can keep you grounded in terms of the job search? Another thing that you can do in terms of staying focused, and this also will help you on a mental health aspect, is create a plan. So make sure that you have a weekly plan and say, um, I'm focused on from Monday to Friday. I don't do job search in the weekend. So treat the job search as a job, basically. You don't do job search in the weekend, for example. It's up to you, of course, but let's say that this is how you want to do it. No job search during the weekend, and you are job seeking from 9 to 2 every day, or 3, and there should be some benefits, so you might not have to do 8 hours a day. But you look into, so okay, so every Monday this is what I do, Tuesday this is what I do. But also plan in exercise, plan in lunch breaks, plan in that you get good sleep, all of these things that are more basic for your well-being. Because if you have control of the sleep, the food, the exercise, you're also more likely to not get as big of a dip when things are going bad, because you have, like, the core things focused on. I hope that makes sense. Um, and then when you get rejected, then do two things. Look at what can you learn from this experience. What is it that you, with the feedback, with the things that's happening, what can you learn and use to move forward? But then also do something good for yourself. Have a list of things that can help you. So maybe crank up the music for on a specific track, or go eat ice cream, or go for a run. Something that helps you, that makes you happy, so that you can actually use that to not get that dip. And especially if it's something that's over a longer period of time, have these things, write a list so that you don't need to figure out what it is when you're down. You need to have that list when you are in a good mood, when you're up mentally. Make that list and then find that list when you're down to figure out how to get your mood up again. I hope that makes sense. And answering the question of staying focused, because sometimes we also need to defocus to actually focus. And if it's hard to stay focused sometimes, but you know you need to apply. So, two things, well, something just popped up in my mind here is that remember to, even though you're in an interview process, remember to keep applying for other jobs. Because even though if you then don't get the job, you're not going to experience like nothing the next 2 months because you didn't apply when you were in the interview process. So keep applying for new jobs when you're in the interview process. And then also, oh, that slipped my mind. Nope. Is there anyone in the chat that has any good advice for some of the other people who are here on the live stream? Is there something you've experienced? Maybe you're volunteering in some great capacity, or you've experienced something that could benefit other people. I also, by the way, do want to, and I'll keep it in the back of my mind, try and figure out what the thing I forgot was. So if it pops up, I will let you know. But let me know in the chat if you have any good advice. I do also want to invite you guys, if you're based in or around Copenhagen, that once a month I do walk and talks. So what we do is we meet up at a place in Copenhagen, and I have designed a route around Copenhagen with a theme. Last time the theme was water. It's been museums, stuff like that. And then we walk and talk and network. So basically, we will walk from one place to another. Then I will tell a little bit about that place. It could be there was a moat with one of the castles in Copenhagen we walked through. Then I will take like 2 minutes to tell about the moat, and then we'll move on to the next stop. And then we will just be walking around, networking and meeting new people and talking. The next one, which is fully booked, but is this Sunday. If you want to participate in these walk and talks, the first sign up is for the next one is on October 7th. And the first spots are always given away to the people on my email list. So you can go into my email list or subscribe to my email list, and I will then, or you will then get the chance to be the first one to book the spot. We do have a wait list, so I encourage you to join the newsletter to be able to join these walk and talks. They're usually very, very nice, and I get very good feedback on those. And let's see, does it pop up what I wanted to say? It does not. But I will write it in the newsletter if I think about it. So, any last questions before I jump off for today? And while I just give you a couple of minutes to actually get that due to the delay of the stream, but also to write, I will let you know that, of course, sign up for the newsletter, sign up for, subscribe for the channel here, and yeah, I'm always open to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have not said that, I think. I'm just gonna give you guys a link. You are very welcome to connect with me. If you connect with me, please, if you're not already, please do write a message and say what it is that, or who you are, that you met me here on LinkedIn. or not LinkedIn, wow, on YouTube, and that you saw the stream. That would be amazing. Okay, so the Career Club Denmark is super good for international women. I can share the networking events for people from life science background. Amazing. MVA events, Rubbles, talks at Bill and Novo Nordisk Science Cluster events. Thank you for all your answers. I'll try calling from now on. That's amazing. Calling, very, very important. And thank you for sharing um, all of the networks. That's amazing as well. So thank you guys. I think I'm pretty much talked out now. Have an amazing Friday and weekend. I am going to go do some charity work tomorrow, and then on Sunday we have the walk and talk. So have an amazing Friday and take care.